off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa and
Cynthia Caughie.
and that was Pablo in the background. Here on this CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports radio station, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and about 20 more. But who's counting? The list gets longer because why? I want the maximum splatter zone for more hope and happiness. And that's what this show is about. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K words, no Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show so you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests to that end and special series. And Fridays are Fired Up Fridays with Cynthia Caughie and Dr. Marissa. Welcome back to my co-host. Every time I see your mug on my virtual studio screen, I go, man, that was a fast week.
True, right?
Totally flies like amazing. So I am so glad to have you here, and we are going to have a great show about something that Cynthia wanted to talk about, and I'll let you sort of give the background of why you picked this topic and why it's important to you, because I'm sure you're not alone. And then we'll do our morning breakfast, and then we'll get into the topic. So she wants to say.
Good
I know
morning.
you're multitasking. I know. I just gave her I just promoted, go promote, and now I'm making her start.
Because, communication is huge. Communication is huge. Like in the last 2 years, I cannot tell you the difference in my speak, how I talk, the words I choose, the tone I use. Everything is so important. And I am going to really like this conversation. I was talking to somebody and they gave me some more insight, and I was like, oh, that's really important too. I didn't even think about that. So there's a lot of different facets to the word communication. So I think that's good.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about today's topic.
Pardon?
I'm excited about today's topic.
I am too. I actually got to teach this course at UCLA in the Anderson School. It was called Managerial Interpersonal Communication. And so when Cynthia picked the topic, I'm like, wow, yeah, there's quite a bit up in this noggin about that. And we'll see if it still plays out. I taught a while back, another lifetime, but excited about getting into the topic because communication absolutely can make and break relationships, and it can make and break how happy you are, because as Dr. Phil says, you cannot unring a bell. So if you say something, you can say sorry, but it's already too late because it just keeps coming up. So before we get into the topic, let's go and have breakfast together, which is our tradition to start the morning with 8 specific gratitudes. That way you're sort of sealing the start of your morning and taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. So Cynthia, you want to start? What are you grateful for?
I am grateful for communication. The skill in communicating.
I am grateful that we have the opportunity to talk about anything we want, because we live in America and we're on a a broadcast that, well, I mean, we can't say dirty words because we're part of FCC regulations as an NBC station, but pretty much I love the freedom that we have to say, what do we want to talk about this week? So I'm grateful for that.
And there are so many things that we can choose. I am grateful for you and I appreciate the opportunity. I always get really excited for Fridays because I feel like I have a lot to share. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure and blessing, Cynthia. I'm grateful for Cynthia, who stepped up and said, yeah, I want to do this because it's easy to not, I think for women especially, it takes some courage to speak up and say, what's on my mind and heart. And when it's not the popular maybe thing to say, but I always say, what you permit, you promote. And I think it's time that women took more of it doesn't have to be brutally honest, but a gentle lead in, if we want to be the change that we want to see, then talking about it and being aware of it first is a great step. Last gratitude.
So many good things in that sentence. So many good things in that sentence. I am grateful for my courage. I'm very grateful for my courage because without it, the hard things would be even harder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am grateful for being able to babysit my grand dog son. I got an overnight with him. So if you hear a little bit of howling in the background, he may climb on my lap as he did yesterday, but it's just been such a blessing to have unconditional dog. That's what I call them. Because we try to be unconditionally loving, but really dogs are I think the only sentient being that actually accomplishes it. And he's just such a love bug. And I know that if I ever got a dog, I'd never date again because the need for unconditional love goes away. That's why I don't have one. And that's our last gratitude. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the bun, which is appreciation. What do you appreciate about yourself? And if you're listening to this later, it's never too late to appreciate. It is a muscle that we don't exercise a lot, especially if you grew up being told, don't be seen, don't speak, go away, speak when you're spoken to. And again, especially women, especially Asian women, are subject to this gag order in life. And so also not to put yourself out there or toot your own horn, but that's bullshitaki, that it is so important to get a sense of who you are in the amazingness that you are 88% of the time. Not perfect, but there's so much good about you. So, Cynthia, what's one thing you appreciate about yourself?
I appreciate my ability to be honest with myself.
I appreciate the ability to cut myself slack when I step in it.
Grace is a good one. I appreciate my energy. I love my energy.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I appreciate my enthusiasm for life and for pretty much everything.
I forgot what I said for the first one. Oh, I think I said growth. Did I say growth?
No, you said fear or courage.
Oh, courage.
Yes.
Courage. So I appreciate my ability to grow. A lot of people, I feel like they're like, I'm good with where I'm at. So I appreciate the fact that I want to grow.
I appreciate that I will try anything once, that level of exploration and adventure that I love about myself. Last one.
I appreciate, these ones are always hard for me. I appreciate my smile. I use it often. I use it a lot. So
on cue, I brought you front and center with your smile. I kind of like this. Let's do this for a little while. I think the close-up's great. All right. I want to give us an applause for having breakfast together. Thank you for having breakfast with Cynthia and I. And I promise that if you do this for 30 days, your days will become very, very different because you're starting and ending the day with a point of attraction that is positive, affirming, and appreciating. And that's a high vibration that will attract good things to you. It's a money back guarantee, even though you're not paying me anything. Free tip. All right. So let's switch gears. Welcome. I see some eyeballs rolling in. Thank you for coming to chat with us about communication today. I'm going to ask you if you're an arrow or a pillow communicator, and if that's supposed to intrigue you a little. And please do chat in the comments, and I'll put your comments on the screen. This show is very interactive, and especially on Fridays when I have Cynthia. So thank you for joining. We're on LinkedIn, also Facebook and YouTube. All right. So let's see. Let's go to the problems first so that we set the stage on why communication is important. So it's all about balance, right? So we're going to talk about the problem first. And this doesn't have to be you. You can be someone you know. And that way we can, when we move to solution, there's something actually to refer back to. So that's the way I usually like to do things so that it's realistic, right?
Yes.
All right. So I know a lot of people get in trouble with communication because one person will be very, I got to be brutally honest. I got to tell you what's on my mind. I've got to be authentic. I got to, I got to tell it like it is. And then that usually means they have to apologize at some point because they say something that hurts someone's feelings. Does that ever happen?
Well, I mean, here's what I've learned. Here's what I've learned. So, I have 3 children, all girls. I have 3 lovely ladies. I have 15 employees at the restaurant, and I am currently seeing somebody. So all of those, plus you have your best friends, right? You have your girlfriends, you have your best friends. Each one of those situations is all different kinds of communication, right? Whether you can be, like you said, your arrow or your pillow. Sometimes I'm in between, right? If it's that person that I can be honest with and direct with, right? I've learned the finesse, the pillow part of the communication and who it is, but you got to know somebody, I think, in order to kind of gauge. If you're well-versed in communication, if you've had a little bit of background, and I didn't always, but I've learned so much in the last 2 years. And when you posed the question, are you an arrow or a pillow? I was like, that's one way to put it, because you're either straightforward, and I do say, I use this line, I don't sugarcoat things. So that to me would be the pillow part. I believe that when somebody asks you a question, they want an answer. Now, on their side, if they're not prepared for the answer, then there's some work that could be done. I truly believe everything is a conversation. Anything can be either comforted, settled, directed. I don't know what else we could talk about, but all of the situations can be clarified with communication if one is willing to give and one is willing to receive.
I agree with you. And at the same time, I believe that people have preferred communication styles. I believe that people are more they have natural preferences. And as you said, I think it's important that they understand and are aware of what those are. And the model that I do use is the arrow and the pillow, because it is one of those natural indices upon which we differ in communication. And so let me just describe what an arrow is. In my model, an arrow is a person who gets straight to the point, ergo arrow. And they tell it like it is. They do the headlines of the news. It's very, the benefit is it's quick, it is straight, it's direct, it's to the point, and saves time. So that's the benefit of arrows. The consequence of arrows, if you're a true arrow, extreme arrow, is that, and the most important thing is in the delivery, right? Arrow, that's the most important thing. How you say it, when you say it, that you deliver it the most clearly, because the belief system, the BS is, if I deliver it, you should be able to understand me. That's the most important thing. Intent is the most important thing. Impact, not my problem. Okay. So that's a pillow. That's an arrow. So so the consequences of the arrow is sometimes there's blood all over the place because you're not looking at your impact. You zing it in and you don't care how it's hitting. And people are sensitive, and we're human beings, we're sensitive. And if it hits the wrong way and there's blood, you don't even notice the blood because you're only focused on the delivery. So that's the arrows, extreme arrow. Not a lot of people are extreme arrows, right? Most people are like more towards the arrow side. But they're the other side, extreme pillow, is those who really, 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 really want to be understood. So the impact of their message is the most important thing. And if you are saying something, if they don't understand, you have failed. Okay? Because it's so important that the impact is there. So pillows, the best thing is there's no blood on the ground because they're so careful in their delivery and how they're saying it and want to make sure you understand. So they'll give you all the detail. The consequence is they'll say things like, I think, but I'm not always right, that it's so important. Well, not everybody thinks it's important, but I do. And many people, well, actually not all people. And so by the time they get to the actual point, especially when they're talking to the arrow, the arrow's like, please tell me I can't. And it's such a natural communication conflict that people they don't see it as a communication difference. They see it as that person's an idiot, that person's cruel, that person's mean for the arrow, that person's way slow. And to add to that, the cultural biases or the cultural preferences. So Hawaiians have a very indirect way of speaking. I'm not saying all Hawaiians, but it is a group difference that they tell all the details of the story, not to be a storyteller, but they want to make sure you understand the entire context. The consequence of that, again, is it takes a whole lot of time to get to the actual nugget, which arrows are trying to look for. So does that make sense?
Yes, I am a complete arrow.
We know that. I'm glad you are aware of that. Because if you weren't, I was going to be, boy, this is going to be a long show. Because you started out exactly as an arrow. This is the way it is, and this is what and people should, take responsibility for which is nothing wrong with that. That's the arrow. I'm also a natural arrow, right?
Yes, you are.
I am. So you've got two arrows on here, and again, which one is better?
See, I don't. So
neither one is better.
Yeah. So, but this is my thing. So are we saying that arrows and pillows can't communicate?
No, not at all. Okay. I'm saying that arrows and pillows will get into a natural, as soon as a pillow starts talking in a meeting, Arrows will roll their eyeballs and grab their phone and start multitasking because
It's
they
true.
ain't got time for all the details.
It's
Right?
true. I got a lot to
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. And pillows are constantly hyper vigilant about what comes out of the mouth of an arrow that is going to zing somebody or zing themselves. And the issue, the opportunity for improvement here is it's not about whether you're an arrow pillow. It's about whether you care enough, you respect the other kind of communication to have a conversation and say, I love you. And I know you want to tell me the whole story, but we actually have to make a decision in 1 minute. Can you give me the headline? And when I have time, I'll ask you for the detail and actually follow that up, because arrows can go and zing, zing, zing and promise that they'll follow up, but they never do. So I think arrows are behooven to modify their way of communicating, not because pillows are right or pillows are better, but it's this thing, if it's here, you got to do this to get this. But most arrows say, come over here. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And so that is, yeah.
So here's the thing, and I'm sorry. You said something. If you care about the person enough, right, to understand how they communicate and meet them in the middle.
Yes.
Huge, huge, huge.
Yes.
If the arrow, not saying I've had this experience, but maybe I have. If the arrow, straight and narrow, says, hey, I care enough to say, let's explore this a little more. Let's communicate about it in a way that we can both see the other side and or meet in the middle so that we are both having, right, receptive conversation. Because sometimes in my experience, if the other person isn't, and if it's the pillow or whatever, maybe it's another arrow, doesn't really matter. It just matters that you care enough to kind of come together and say, listen, okay, I'm going to communicate and I'm going to share it with you like this, right? So that we can get to the other side, or we can see the other side of the person's, right, communication, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's just communicating, just to have a conversation, or if it's to get the point across to the other side, right? Because I believe that the two have very different views. You've come from different backgrounds. You have different conditioning. You have different lives. But when two people come together, whether they're the same communicators, arrows, or maybe they're the same, they're pillows, then what? They're there for hours. But even still, it's the effort in which we give the situation to let the other person know that we care enough to learn. That's the key for me. That's the key for me. I think that's
okay, but again, you're a typical arrow that says what's going to happen. It's going to go on for hours. What's wrong with having two pillows comfortable with hours? See, it's the projection of, I don't have time, therefore you need to come to me. And that's the part where I believe we have some opportunities to value the pillow talk, so to speak, and actually allow pillows a little more time than always expecting them to come to us.
Right. I mean, depending on the situation, I'm all about the pillow talk. Just depending on the situation. I get it. And that's sometimes the opportunity and a challenge.
Right.
It's a challenge.
Right. Yes, it is. It's an opportunity for improvement, and this is a good time to go to break. We have a couple commercials today of wonderful sponsors for this show. You're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa and
Cynthia Caughie.
Here on our weekly Friday, Fired Up Friday series on KZAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. We'll be right
Beach was the perfect setting for an international film festival.
I'm Kate Beckinsale.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I'm Milo Ventimiglia. You're at the Newport Beach Film Festival.
Newport Beach, stepping it up.
Man,
and that is a wonderful place to be. This is the time of the Newport Beach Film Festival. I wanted to give a quick shout out to an event that is coming up as part of the Newport Beach Film Festival. It is the Pacific Showcase, and I've been honored every year for the past 5 years to introduce the Chinese Spotlight film, followed by an amazing party. There's lion dancers, there's really yummy food, there's all kinds of good stuff. So go to newportbeachfilmfest.com and buy some tickets. You use the code Chinese 2022 for a discount. And if you want to win a pair of tickets, Asian Oprah giveaway on Monday is for this particular wonderful event, valued at over $200. So tune in on Monday for that. And finally, this Thursday through Sunday is an amazing event called Timeless Treasures Boutique. It is happening at Huntington Beach, and it is 4 days to support over 120 local artisans and craftspeople, give back to the community, find ghoulishly clever gifts and direction and decorations, and have fun. There's costumes, there's great hats, and there's Halloween trivia, and you can even win a prize on Sunday. Trick or treat all day. My bonus mom takes her crafts there. She's turning 90 next month, and so you'll have to go see her felt hats and her beautiful fuzzy vests and all of that. I'm so proud of her that she's continuing to create. So go to Huntington Beach, 7227 Ettinger, that is at Gothard. Go to timelesstreasuresboutiques.com for more information. I hope to see you there.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio Channel AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my fabulous YouTube channel that houses not only 700 and I think around, I don't know, it's like close to 800 shows after 9.5 years. And I'm so grateful to everyone who has been supportive for that, especially my guys at KCAA. Thank you, Polly, today for being my sound engineer. And of course, Sam works the days that Polly's not there. My station manager, Mark Westwood, my station owner, Fred Lundgren, and all the guys in the back, Rick, Mike, Carlos, Joe. And if I forgot anybody, I apologize. But I don't thank you guys enough, and I wanted to take a quick second to do that. And today is a very special day. You'll see the beautiful woman that is next to me on the screen if you are not listening while you're driving and you're streaming with us, and I see some eyeballs. So please do say hello to my fired up Friday co-host, Cynthia Caughie. If you have any questions or comments for either one of us, please do put them in the chat. You saw the commercial for that yummy, gooey knuckleball. My goodness, that one part where you pull the cheese. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want one right now, but not good for my Love Me 2.0 weight loss thing. It looks so good. And it is in the works, right? This is your entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yes. I'm really excited. I had a wonderful conversation with a woman the other day, and she goes, well, what's like your tagline? And I was like, I don't know. So tell me your thoughts on this. This is fun. So it says ooey gooey goodness, right? That's the description, which it definitely is ooey gooey goodness. But I thought of this: life's short. Have a ball, a knuckleball. So see, when you even talk about your 2.0 and, just have one. You don't have to have all 9.
That's great. Life's
right?
short.
Life's short. Have a ball.
My mind went to a bad place, but we're not going there. Back to the topic at hand. We're talking about communication. Are you an arrow communicator or a pillow communicator, or are you a balanced communicator? And a balanced communicator is the one that can modify their preferred style to embrace the diversity in styles of communication. So that is, that's the one you're talking about, is why can't we be both? And you can be both. Yes. And that is something that actually, people take this for granted. They don't really understand why some people drive them to the moon and other people it's so easy to talk to. And that's why we're raising this, is because the tendency is to dismiss people who are not easy to talk to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like it's like
perfectly.
Yeah.
And so if you're learning to communicate, right? I know that you have done this for years and years and years. So let's give a little tidbit. So if you're just one way, right? If you're the arrow or the pillow, right? How do you become balanced, right? How do you become that one? I know what's happened for me, but I don't really always have the best words to explain it. So I think that it would be great, and I would really appreciate it if you could explain it in all your years of wisdom and teaching. And, we talked about that, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the segue. It is work. Like people say, why can't we just get along? Because we can't just get along. It is a skill to be able to, meet people in the middle, because it's related to it's my way or the highway, and the American rule of majority rules. And what we're seeing now is majority doesn't always necessarily rule. It is time. We are changing as a society to take into account other people's perspectives that are not the majority. This valuing of diversity with gender orientation, with LGBTQA plus that I've done shows on. It's time for the minority not to be dismissed as they're the squeaky wheel, because truly majority rules is breaking down on us right now. If you look at what's going on in our politics, if you look at what's going on with war, it's predominantly because we're all saying we are the only ones that have the right answer. And so when it comes to communication, when it comes to problem solving styles, you're in a meeting and somebody says, if they're the leader, I have a great idea, right? Because they're a high N on the Myers-Briggs, which means they love opening things up. They love, I got a great idea for this, I got a great idea for that. And then the high S's, who are people who are data-driven, operationalize, they're like, oh my God, we haven't finished the last good idea you've had. We don't have time. We haven't completed the last goal. And so what happens is the natural conflict that happens there, you dismiss that person as an idiot. And if you have that BS belief system that a person is an idiot for being an arrow or a pillow, or for being a high intuitive or a high sensing data-driven person, then that breaks down all communication. And it's called Pygmalion Effect. So Pygmalion Effect is that expression, I'll believe it when I see it, right? That one. This is, I'll see it when I believe it. Because I see you as an idiot, then everything that comes out of your mouth will confirm my belief system, my BS about you being an idiot. And this dynamic, this psychological dynamic is so at work and at home and in relationships that it makes things so much more difficult to get things done, to get along, and all of that, which is why communication is all about the importance of having a relationship at work. Now, a lot of business owners say to me, no, personal life here, professional life here, don't want to mix the two. You can, talk about what you did on the weekend, not on my time at work. We have work to get done. We got to get things done. This isn't rocket science. Why are you taking so long? Why is this so difficult for you? I just asked you to put this right there. And the reason why it's so difficult, and when I executive coach, I get exactly what I just described behind closed doors all the time. And my response is, you idiot. No, I'm kidding. My response is, in order to get things done, if you can picture the circle, getting things done, the task is on the top half of the circle. What supports getting things done is relationships. I'm not talking about love relationships, although office romance is another story, another show, but I'm talking about enough relationship glue to get the task done. You have to have some semblance of relationships to get the job done. And if people aren't like you half the time, how are you going to get things done? So this is where, when I talk and coach with people, I'm not telling you to become a pillow, Cynthia. I'm not telling you to become, I don't know if you're high N or a high S. My guess is you're maybe in the middle, but sometimes you like to have the great ideas. So you're probably a little higher in the N than the S. Is that about accurate?
Well, I did the DISC, so it's a little different. I can't remember what the quadrants were, but I'm pretty balanced. There's 3. Anyway, I'm pretty balanced, but I am a driver. I'm a driver.
So maybe you're at work, maybe you're an operational, that's the highest data-driven, So what happens is if we cannot be threatened by people who speak differently, think differently, problem solve differently, that's the ticket. That's the balance. That's the best case scenario for working together and having that relationship glue to get the task done. Does that make sense?
Yes, but my question is, how does the other person see, right, the balance or the benefit of the balance because they've been one way for so long, or they just don't see it differently, right? The perspective, how does the perspective change if they haven't had the experience?
I'll ask the question. Cynthia, you
Yes.
are effective right now with 50% of the people around you who think like you do and speak like you do and want the same things. Would you like to be effective with the other 50% of the people who do not think or speak or communicate like you?
Of course, yes.
There's the motivation.
So they have to want to. It's the same.
But yes, they have to want to, but who would say no?
Well,
You're right.
I want what I
You're
want. And I want
absolutely
it
right.
because I want it, or
You're absolutely right.
you
They
know,
have
I've
to.
had some.
They have to want
Mhm.
that. But then, so that'll go to another tool that I use in as an organizational psychologist. Every leader and manager. So you have employees that come to work. This is free consulting for you right now. When they come to work, you have expectations of them, right? And things that you have to do. I ask every one of my managers and leaders to create a 3-column happy sheet. And the 3 columns are as follows. The middle column is your normal roles and responsibilities. To get paid, however much you're getting paid, I always ask my leaders, pay a little more than industry average so that you have some pay incentive in there. Not that money is everything, but it is a baseline, right? If you're paying less than your competitors, you're going to have a harder sell. So have a little bit of a gap. You're above the industry average. And in order to get that paycheck, these are the things that are part of the job. And they're not like rocket science. They're not your high expectation stuff, just the basics, right? And if you don't do these things, the left side column are the consequences if you don't do those things. So if you are an hour late, if you are rude to customers, if you eat all the dough before it gets in the oven, these are things that will get you a job somewhere else, because this is a sad face. This is a big sad face from me. The most important column is the far right column. The far right column is the happy face. Now, the happy face are things that are above and beyond. Now, if you have this discussion with all of your employees before they begin work and say, you don't have to do this, but if your goals are to move up the track here, if your goals are to be a manager, if your goals are to have profit share, if your goals are beyond your regular, what you're getting paid for, these are things that make me happy. When I walk through the door and you greet me with a big smile, you don't have to do that, right? Another boss wouldn't care about that. In your workspace, if you have positive motivation stickers, that makes me smile. You don't have to do that. And other bosses may be pissed off at that, but I'm the one that is filling out your performance appraisal. And if it is something that you want me to be your support and mentor in moving you to a place that you want to go, then these are the things that make me happy. But most of the time, what happens is nobody knows any column. If they're lucky, they don't even, some companies don't even have roles and responsibilities in the middle column. You're just shoved in there, sink or swim. You learn the hard way by making mistakes, and nobody wants to learn by making mistakes. So this tool that I use with my clients is one of the most valuable tools for leadership to start on that foot of common understanding, right? And part of that too is being forthright. I'm an arrow communicator. What that means is I like things, short. Give me the headlines first. I'll ask for the details later. And if I stop you, don't take it personally, because I am just This is my preferred style. I don't mean to, stab you. But if it feels like I'm stabbing you, please let me know and I'll backtrack and we can start over. So that's the kind of conversation you want to talk about communication that is so important that will or not convince that person to come to the middle. If it doesn't, then you have to ask yourself, what is more important? I don't have the luxury of having everybody like me in the workplace. And this is such an important point that I'm sorry, I'm going to dominate one more section here before I shut up because I'm on a roll.
It's good info. Good info.
Thank you. There's 100% people in organizations. Let's see, here we go. The expectation that most leaders have, and they say to me, if I could just hire my own team, I would be great because I inherited a bunch of numbnuts. Sorry. I have some really great, strong performers and I count on them and I can do whatever. And they make up 20% of my organization. And then I have my bottom 20. And it is so difficult to motivate them. It's so difficult to get them to do anything I want to. I can't stand yes, but. Every time I give them something to do, it's yes, but. And I'm so tired of dealing with this every day. I have to deal with this particular group and they make 20% of my population. And then I have my 2%er and my bottom 2%, that person, even if I gave them double the salary, they would still hate their job. They still hate me. They still hate what they have to do. They just don't do anything. Now, in the mafia, that 2%er would be dead, right? There's just no, and if you fire that 2%er, I hate to tell you this, but someone else from the 20% fills that position. For some reason in organizations, there's always a 2%er. It just happens. Your work is not to fix the 20%. Your work is the 60% on the fence. They're watching where you take your information, where you do your attention. If you focus on the bottom 20, guess what? The 60% towards the bottom 20. If you focus on the top 20, they know how to rise up. If you give them that 3 column, they know how to. I'm done.
That's really good information. You're absolutely right. A lot of times I find myself in the weeds instead of focusing on what I can do with the people who are willing to do it. Right?
Yes.
There's a difference how you spend your time, where you put your energy, and what's going to give you the best outcome. So instead of focusing on that 2%, right, or 20%, then it's a good reminder. I think a lot of anything is really good reminders. We get stuck in the weeds. Life gets ahead of us and we're just trying to catch up. But I'm going to use the tagline for my book. Be proactive with your growth and not reactive with your life. The more you consistently improve yourself, the more you consistently have reminders, the better you will become. When you get better, then your life gets better. It's just the way it works. And it's so cool. And I thank you for all your wisdom today because I thought it was a great conversation. I love communicating. At one point in my life, I just felt like it was words, but there's meaning behind it. And there's such an art to it. And actually, can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, please.
We're gonna end soon. I would love a good book on communication. Can you recommend a good book?
Yes, I can. Mine. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously. The textbooks that I used at UCLA in the Anderson School for Managerial Interpersonal Communication, one was Getting to Yes. Getting to Yes is a great negotiation that everybody should have that book. It's about communicating and understanding how to best motivate, inspire people to come to the middle for a win-win. So it's a classic book on communication. I love that book.
Great.
Okay. And it brings to mind a model of communication, another model of communication. I didn't make this one up, but people constantly think that the words they choose are the most important part of communication. And you've already probably heard the statistic that the content of your message is actually only 7% of communication received. 7%.
Wow.
40% is in the tone, pitch, and volume of your communication. 53% is in the facial expression, body language. 53% forking. That's more than half of your communication is in this, right? Or in this. And so it just kills me when my managers walk around and say, I'm not angry. I am not angry. Or, you can, right? I'm so excited about life. I'm so happy here. It is just ridiculous how we don't look at the real parts of communication. You don't look people in the eye. You're not sensitive. Arrows could use a lot more practice in being aware of how they impact. When you're talking to someone, most arrows are like talking and looking, talking and looking, and they're not really there to look at the impact of their communication, right? So for arrows to be sensitive to body language, when you've said something that someone doesn't like, you'll see it. It'll be like this.
I feel like I'm a really good balance. I have a squishy face. That's what I say. So I feel like I give a lot in my delivery. And so the other thing is, one thing I do tell people, I'll say, hey, how's it going? I walk in, I've always got a smile on my face. I mean, 95% of the time, I've got a smile on my face. And if somebody doesn't, and I'm like, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, great. Tell your face.
Yes, I have a similar
Let's
thing.
see a smile.
Mine is, if you're happy, let your face know.
Yeah.
Final word. We're running to the last 2 minutes. Cynthia, on communication. What's your keeper?
Every day I learn and every day I get better. Don't ever stop trying. Don't ever stop learning. You're never done. Just because today you do it one way doesn't mean you cannot improve.
Beautiful. My final word is, do you know if you are an arrow or pillow? And is it important for you to reach more than what is easy? So that is the question and the final word from Cynthia Caughie and Dr. Marissa on Fired Up Fridays. Thank you so much for continuing to be part of our Fridays. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you're ready to communicate effectively this weekend. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from her living room and Cynthia's living room, reminding you it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. We'll see you next Monday. Have the best weekend ever.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.